Have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Law, and as chair, I now call to order the meeting of the Audit and Budget Committee members of the New York State Urban Development Corporation, doing business as Empire State Development, for this Thursday, March 28th, 2024. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting is being webcast. The public was given an opportunity to comment on the agenda by submitting written comments by 4:30 p.m. yesterday. And I understand that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda. And we do not have any members of the public joining us today, although they were invited. The committee members, of course, have received all the materials in advance of today's meeting, and of course are free to ask questions at any time. There will be no voting items on today's agenda, and all of the items will be presented for information only. And so we will not be calling for the committee members to indicate any potential conflicts of interest. Thus, we'll get right to the agenda. And I'm going to hand it off to Kathleen Mize. She's our Deputy Chief Financial Officer and Controller, and she will lead the discussion on the first agenda item relating to the fiscal year 2024-2025 proposed annual operating budget and non-programmatic capital expense. Kathleen, the floor is yours. That's quite a title and a description, but I teed it up for you.
Thank you so much, and good morning, committee members and everyone else, staff who's here. Hard to believe we're talking about 24-25 budget. I don't know about everyone, but it feels unreal that we're already projecting into 2025. With that said, the proposed total operating budget for the 24-25 fiscal year is $143.6 million, some $6 million over last fiscal year or the current fiscal year's budget, and that represents about 4.4%. That increase is largely due to an increase in our salary expenses, including fringe benefits. And as everyone knows, we've been talking about big programs such as SSBCI, Connect All, Workforce Development, Go Semi. These initiatives and large programs have begun ramping up during the fiscal 23-24 fiscal year, but are really going to blossom and take off to another level in the coming 24-25 fiscal year, requiring some additional staff in those areas and supporting staff as well. So that's where the big change in the budget for the coming fiscal year is derived from. The actual non-personal services expenses, which is our consultants, our outside accounting fees, outside legal fees, our rent, and our what we call other outside services, which are contracts we have for intern program and various other things. That actually is lower projected to be lower in the coming fiscal year as compared to the current fiscal year, largely in that the consultants are going to be a bit less for some of the programs going forward. That's what I want to talk about at a high level for the moment, and then if we should entertain some questions if anyone has anything we want further detail or discuss.
Sure. Thanks, Kathleen. I have two questions for you. So, in my world, I'm used to, if you're going to have people around for a short time, that's when your consultant budget usually increases. But when you envision people are going to be there for a longer term, that's when you increase in staff. And is that what we're doing here? Sort of, all these brand new programs that ESD is being asked to handle and manage, we're gearing up for them, we're having gearing up, and we're trying to strengthen them, and that's why our personal staff number.
Yes, for some of the programs, yes. Some of them are going to be more longer term. They're going to go over the next few years as opposed to a year or two. And some of the consultants are down in an area that is now seeing that it has been staffed and it's moving forward. One of the biggest places where that I forgot to mention that we're also adding staff is in real estate. Real estate, as you would imagine.
I would hope so.
Yes, correct.
Seems like every month we're taking on a pretty big project.
Correct. And that had a more robust consultant budget in the current fiscal year, and now it's going to switch to your point, right? We're going to bring on some folks that are going to help us over the long term in that area.
Got it. Good. And my other question is, I see we have a decent increase in our IT costs, and just curious, will some of that be used for strengthening our cybersecurity efforts, and will any of it be used to begin training staff in the way AI might be able to make ESD more efficient, et cetera?
To the latter point, I'm not quite sure. I know Ed Hamilton's with us and maybe can add on the AI piece. I'm confident and have confirmation from our IT folks. Cybersecurity is definitely in this budget, as well as some more robust cloud migration, reservation conferencing.
Yeah, I think we approved something at the last board
Yes.
meeting about moving more of our older files to the cloud and stuff.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other committee members have any questions for Kathleen? Is there, Kathleen, did you stop midway or were you done or do you have more to share?
I just would mention a couple of other things, just so, make sure, committee members and then the board's aware. The operating budget also, includes some support for a few of our subsidiaries that do not have their own operating, dollars, and that's been many, many years. That's our Erie Canal, Harlem, Queens West, and,
Niagara.
you said it's Niagara, yes, yep. So I
And those
just,
numbers seem very similar to last year's numbers.
yes, fairly consistent. And again, I don't know if any, Ray or anyone wants to add any further comments to the.
I'd just like to add that Kathleen did a great job, as she always does, in pulling this together, and I'm very grateful for her partnership.
Very much. Between Ray, you and Kathleen, we got Long Island finance powerhouses.
We're not fooling around.
I would expect nothing less. So glad to hear. And I did just have one other clarification, since I'm still one of the newest guys on the team here. Everything we're doing here today is just for UDC, and the Department of Economic Development is not included in this budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. And that's done through what's going on as we speak up in Albany. Got it. All right. All right. So no other questions, no other comments. We're not taking an official vote, but the committee is making a recommendation to the full board, and the full board will approve this in a little bit.
And I'll acknowledge that in my presentation to the full board,
Got it.
that this committee met and acknowledged it for moving on to the full board for approval.
Okay. Well, again, so how do we make a recommendation without taking a vote? But, we just reached a consensus.
You can just say yes.
Okay. All right, so by consensus, we are making a unanimous recommendation to the full board for approval. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks very
Kathleen.
much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Ray.
Kevin, I'm still trying to figure out all these weird rules you created over the years. But he explains them to me eventually, and then I get it. And usually there's a lot of logic.
There's some logic.
So I'm not going to doubt him. So all good. So Kathleen, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on. Next, I will ask Stephen Konopko. He's ESD's Vice President of Internal Audit, to present the annual plan of internal audit coverage and the internal audit progress report. Stephen?
Thank you, committee members. We have here the 2024-2025 internal audit plan. It's broken into two pieces, one for ESD and one for DED. Although DED is not under this committee's auspices, we present the items that we are doing just so your committee is aware of what our time is being spent on. For 2025, the audits are going to focus on the key risks and ESD's more critical programs. And the rationale for scope and adjusting for each audit will be outlined in the audit reports that are issued. There's a scope section in each audit report. In some cases, we may limit scopes or do a targeted review if a system or procedure is changed in a department that we haven't looked at in a bit. We may just do a targeted audit of that just to check that. But usually we'll do full audits. And in those cases, if we do limited sampling, we would increase that testing if there were any issues uncovered. Internal audit this year has also been a member of some of the project implementation teams, which is looking at the newer projects being contemplated by ESD through the budget process. And as I mentioned to Mr. Yunus, it's been very good for internal audit to see all these projects and be part of this and see how the flow of the projects go through management and be executed. On page 3 of the is Appendix A. This is our plan for the ESD section of our audit. We risk rated these audits, present hours that we think the audits will take to complete. And again, this is a risk-based approach. And as Kathleen mentioned, there's a lot of higher risk areas that we're going to look at this year. Connect All, Office of Strategic Workforce Development is on here, as is loans and grants, and other items that we normally do in the course of the year. For the Department of Economic Defense is in Appendix B. And we're looking at NYSTAR, Global New York, DED Finance, and NWBE as the main components of that audit plan this year. Appendix C breaks down our resources. The audit plan does contemplate one additional hire this year. That is to replace the open position created when my predecessor, Tom Brennan, retired last year. And that would be of a senior auditor level to come in and help with the get our audits completed. That's really the audit plan. Kind of went over it quickly. I don't know if anybody has any questions on the plan itself for 2024-25.
So Stephen, your department, only four or five people?
Yeah, so traditionally it had been only 3 until last year. Tom got the approval to bring in 2 additional staff, which is Esther and Jimmy. They've been with us for a year and has really helped the audit department get a lot of our audits done.
It just seems like an ambitious year for a relatively small staff.
It is.
So good luck, guys.
Do our best.
And, which is good. And one question for you too. So, recently in the press, there was an audit, and I just read an article, every state seems to be being audited for their film and tax credit program. So if the state controller or somebody else does an audit, do you guys then review their work to see where they may have made some errors or miscalculations, or they maybe don't understand what it is that we do?
So we wouldn't actually review their work, but Felisa Hotchheiser is our director of compliance, and she deals with the OSC and their reports. If she sees something in one of their reports that she may disagree with, we'll assume she would come to audit and we would help.
Do they still share drafts?
This is,
Yeah.
the tax credit was a report, not an audit.
Right.
It was done by the tax and finance department for like statutory application, so it wasn't
Oh, it
OSC.
wasn't an audit.
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah, I know when I used to run like the OSC would share a draft audit with us.
They do that?
And then we give them our comments and try to,
Then
and then they usually ignore them.
Yeah.
And,
That's how it works.
uh,
So they give us draft reports, we have 30 days to respond. But it's a relatively drawn out process, and film tax is audited. We have an independent audit we do, as Kevin mentioned. Department of Taxation and Finance just did an audit of all tax credits, not just film tax. So film tax gets a lot of attention.
Got it. All right. So, all right, well, Stephen, thank you. Did you have anything else to report?
Yeah, so I wanted just to go over the update from our last committee meeting in July of 2023. We issued 2 reports. We issued this small business recovery $800 million report. And then on top of that, we also have just completed field work on the $200 million seed program. That report should be issued in the coming month. And then we issued ESD marketing services. So I asked Diane, who's been a longtime member of the audit team, to go over that audit. We just sent a report to you guys last week.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, so we just completed an audit of ESD marketing services, specifically activities and costs related to the Campbell Ewell contract, including advertising, events, and media buying services. And I'm happy to report that the audit results were satisfactory. We found that the controls over the expenditures were effective and satisfactory, and we had no audit findings. Simultaneously, we started an audit of DED's tourism programs and activities. We are currently in the process of completing our field work, and we should have an audit report issued shortly. We have a couple other works in progress, and that includes our DED's Excelsior startup and Empire Zone's tax credit programs. Field work has been completed, and we are in the process of drafting an audit report. We are also working with compliance on the internal control certifications. And then we issued one more report, the DED COVID capital cost tax credit program. And this is also a DED audit report, so this would not be presented here at the audit committee. And I will turn it back over to Steve to go over our audit staff.
So as I said, we have 4 members, hopefully soon to be 5. Diane, again, has been here for 6 years, and she's got 14 years of prior audit experience. And She's an newly promoted AVP for the department. Esther is an audit manager with 7 years of prior CPA firm experience, and Jimmy has 6 years of prior experience. And that's our staff, hopefully to be supplemented by one more. The last item I have to present is the internal audit charter. So this.
Hold on one sec, Steve. Do we have to do anything? I think, no, I thought we had to acknowledge that we did not receive any public comments on your first two items. So, yeah, you can proceed to.
So the internal audit charter is just really information purposes for the committee to understand what the audit department is, our mission, our resources, and the responsibilities we have to ESD, and the standards that we are audit within, the IIA and the generally accepted government auditing standards. So this is provided for your information purposes. Only there was a change in leadership when Tom Brennan retired. So I figured this would be updated now for the committee so that you have an updated charter of what our responsibilities are. That's my report.
Thank you, Stephen. Can any members have any questions for Stephen? Seems like lots of different types of audits here. So we have you guys who do more programmatic audits. We have OSC and New York State Tax and Finance who do their own things, and then Ray, we have our outside
Our
auditors who
independent
do
audit for our financial statements.
And when will we be getting them in June?
And that's June, right? Yeah.
Correct.
In June.
They were just here doing their interim field work for a week last week, and then they'll live with us for the month of May.
So you guys are pretty much year round or some way, somehow dealing with some type of audit going on. But that's good. Keeps everybody's on their toes and making sure all the i's and t's are being dotted and all the different requirements and regulations that we have to comply with. So all good. And so Stephen and your team, thanks for the presentation. We haven't received any public comments on your third item on the agenda. We don't need to take any votes. And it's my understanding that this concludes our official business. Do any committee members have any other business they'd like to raise at this time? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn, seconded by Benson. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ed.
Thank you very much.